Some moments look so ordinary that the entire world walks past them without noticing. But every once in a while, a stranger's quiet act of kindness becomes the beginning of a miracle that no one could have imagined. This is the unforgettable story of a poor young artist, a grieving single father, and a sketch that transformed two broken lives in less than 24 hours. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can change someone's destiny, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to TrueTaleTime for more emotional stories that remind us hope still exists in this world. Every weekday morning, 18-year-old Mira Holloway boarded the same downtown subway with nothing but a worn backpack, a small sketchbook with bent corners, and a handful of pencils she had sharpened so many times they barely fit in her fingers anymore. She lived with her elderly grandmother in a tiny apartment where the electricity was sometimes uncertain and every meal required careful planning. Art was never supposed to become her future. According to almost everyone she knew, it was simply a beautiful dream that poor people could not afford to chase. Yet every ride through the city gave her another chance to draw the faces of strangers whose hidden stories fascinated her more than any famous painting ever could. That bright morning sunlight streamed through the subway windows as the train emerged above ground for a brief stretch of track. Most passengers stared silently at their phones, but one man caught Myra's attention. He wore a simple navy jacket instead of an expensive suit, though everything about him suggested quiet success. Beside him sat a little girl no older than 7, resting peacefully against his shoulder while clutching a faded stuffed rabbit. The father's tired eyes revealed countless sleepless nights, yet every few moments he gently adjusted the blanket covering his daughter so she wouldn't wake cold. There was exhaustion on his face, but even stronger was a tenderness that could never be purchased. Without realizing it, Mira began sketching. Every careful line captured something deeper than appearance. She drew the father's protective posture, the little girl's complete trust, and the silent promise written across his expression that no matter how difficult life became, he would never let her face it alone. She didn't know his name. She didn't know he owned one of the largest technology companies in New York. She simply saw a loving father whose heart carried invisible weight. When the train reached Central Station, the man noticed her drawing just as he prepared to leave. For a brief second, his eyes met hers. He smiled with genuine gratitude before quietly stepping off with his daughter, unaware that the unfinished portrait would soon change both of their futures forever. Mira spent the rest of the afternoon sitting on a public bench in Bryant Park, adding the final details beneath the warm daytime sky. The finished sketch felt different from anything she had ever created. It wasn't technically perfect, but it carried an honesty that even she struggled to explain. She posted a simple photo of the drawing on a small social media page followed by only one sentence. The strongest people are often the ones carrying someone else's world. She expected a handful of likes from classmates. Instead, the internet had other plans. Late that evening, an internationally known street photography account discovered the artwork and shared it with millions of followers, praising its emotional realism. Hours later, celebrities, journalists, artists, and ordinary parents around the world began reposting it. Thousands of people commented that the drawing reminded them of their own fathers, their children, or loved ones they had lost. By sunrise, the sketch had become one of the most shared images on every major platform. Meanwhile, across the city, businessman Adrian Mercer arrived early at his office after dropping his daughter at school. He had spent the previous 3 years balancing billion-dollar decisions while raising his daughter alone after losing his wife to illness. Success had brought wealth beyond imagination but could never replace the empty chair at their dinner table. As his assistant entered the office with an astonished expression, Adrian assumed another business emergency had appeared. Instead, she simply handed him a tablet. There on the screen was the portrait from the subway. He stared silently. For the first time in years, someone had captured not the billionaire everyone recognized but the father he desperately tried to be every single day. The drawing somehow revealed emotions he had carefully hidden from the public ever since his family's tragedy. Millions admired the artwork, yet none of them knew the man inside it. That same morning, giant digital billboards across Times Square began displaying the portrait as part of an international campaign celebrating everyday acts of love and resilience. Tourists stopped in amazement, taking photographs while news cameras broadcast the unexpected story worldwide. Mira stood frozen among the crowd, unable to believe that her humble subway sketch now towered above one of the most famous intersections on Earth. She wasn't looking at success. She was looking at proof that hope could travel farther than money ever could. Determined to meet the mysterious artist, Adrian searched until he finally located Mira through the original social media post. Instead of offering a reward, he invited her to visit a community art center funded by his foundation. There he quietly announced that he wanted to sponsor scholarships for talented young artists from struggling families, naming the initiative after the simple subway sketch that reminded the world compassion still mattered. Within weeks, dozens of students who had nearly abandoned their dreams received opportunities they never imagined possible. Mira became one of the first scholarship recipients, allowing her to study fine arts without forcing her grandmother to choose between rent and groceries. More importantly, she discovered that her greatest gift wasn't drawing perfect faces, it was helping people feel seen. Adrian's daughter proudly hung the original portrait above their living room fireplace. Every morning before school, she smiled at the drawing because it reminded her that somewhere in the world, complete strangers still noticed goodness. Years later, visitors entering the new Youth Art Center passed beneath a framed copy of that famous sketch. Beneath it appeared a simple inscription that inspired every child who walked through the doors. The greatest masterpieces are not painted with expensive brushes. They are created with compassionate hearts. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment telling us what kindness means to you, and subscribe to TrueTaleTime for more unforgettable stories that celebrate humanity. Special request: before this story ends, please comment the words, "Kindness lives on," to help spread hope to everyone reading the comments. Sometimes the world changes not because someone was rich enough to buy attention, but because one struggling young artist looked beyond wealth and recognized the love hidden inside an ordinary moment. In the end, the portrait that filled Times Square was never really about a billionaire. It was about the quiet courage of a father, the unstoppable dream of a poor girl, and the extraordinary truth that one act of kindness can echo across an entire city long after the train has reached its final stop. If you'd like, I can also create a matching YouTube SEO package, thumbnail text, and cinematic image prompts for this story.